Hello and welcome back to the Field Engineer. This is our second talk, and this time I'm switching roles with Charlie Apps. Charlie has been with the Field Engineering Group for almost a year now, and he has extensive experience leading biomedical field engineering teams as well as service support teams in the UK, Europe, Africa, and globally. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Guy. Pleasure to talk to you again. Looking forward to our discussion.
Perfect. Charlie, tell us a little bit about yourself, your choice of studies and career, and what inspired you and made it attractive to you and fulfilling.
There's a lot in there, Guy. I guess starting from my youth. How I got into engineering, I always enjoyed maths. I was one of those guys that enjoyed the mathematical problem solving. In my school, I was fortunate to meet teachers who encouraged me, and engineering was a relatively natural choice. There's plenty of problem solving, there's plenty of practical applications that go on. So early on, I knew I wanted to be an engineer, and then from there. Again, through mentors, from speaking with people, that interface of helping people, helping patients and technology, that's where I wanted to spend my career. As you rightly say, I've spent my whole career in medtech. And although I wouldn't say it's the model path to go, I started out early working for the MHRA, which is the FDA equivalent. It's the regulator in the UK, and that I got lots of exposure to lots of different equipment, and then relatively quickly transitioned into industry, and that was a really amazing and formative part of my career. So I was doing technical and clinical support for a relatively small company, based it was based in the US, but I was spending most of my time in Europe. But I did get to travel the world, and I was doing technical support, clinical support, and I think the joy of that is, particularly when you're doing technical support and clinical support, you're with customers, you're solving their problems, you get that buzz from turning up, someone's equipment isn't working, or they need to know something about how to operate the equipment, and you turn up, you help them, you guide them, and in my mid-20s, getting to travel the world was also awesome. So yeah, it's been a really exhilarating journey, and again, fortunate that I'm really well supported by the people around me, my family, my friends. So yeah, it's been a fun journey thus far.
I can see that, and it's very similar to me, and I'm sure all engineers, and especially in the med tech or even other fields, once we get into it and we find that satisfaction, it's difficult to change. So you stayed in this field a long time. I mean, many years now. When you look back, how do you see your career evolution? Because it did evolve. You were not doing the same thing all the time.
Absolutely. So I think really invaluable that time spent in front of customers, and being relatively independent. We know that if we work in field service, oftentimes you're on your own, you're solving problems for customers. My evolution, I was keen to move up, looking to advance my career. Although spending time in the field was really good fun, I knew I wanted, there's more I could contribute. So, I was again very lucky that acquisitions came along, and I had opportunities within the businesses that I was already in, and so I managed to transition from doing the kind of the daily work in front of customers to developing expertise in a particular product, working with leadership in all over Europe and the US. And then transitioning into management, and I think it's never an easy transition, moving from being frontline and delivering a service to then seeing how that service is managed and being able to evolve into a manager, and certainly we'll talk about mistakes that we make early on in our careers, but I think yeah, the evolution has been relatively organic. I haven't changed jobs that many times in terms of changing of companies, but I did have a lot of exposure because in medtech there were acquisitions going on. At one point in time, I was part of a company that would acquire lots of different businesses, and I have gone through 2 acquisitions, so being acquired. So I've transitioned from relatively small businesses to large multinational businesses. So again, having that experience and that exposure wasn't so deliberate on my part, but I evolved. I adapted to those different working environments, and it's been again a very lucky part of my career that I've had that exposure without having to restart with new businesses, and it's been fun.
Good. Sometimes we call it luck, but it is really about opportunities and how we face them. And I'm sure with your talent and know-how, you turn those opportunities of acquisitions and staying within and evolving thanks to your experience and how you dealt with the situation. How did you make it so successful with regional and with global coverages? What were the key aspects in each one of them?
Um, it's really difficult to sum up in just a few points of because there are so many challenges you face, for a regional and international organization. Just overcoming the straightforward bits of challenges of geography or challenges of language, of culture. I think one of the keys to success is to have the right people on the bus. It's to make sure that you've got a team that's all pulling in the right direction, and that there's been lots written about successful teams. You need some guiding principles. You need that North Star, that aim that everyone's driving towards. I think that's really important. And I think another factor that I've seen is having diversity in teams. It's often again spoken about, and we see in field service that it is more male dominated. I think having diversity in a team is really important. Again, I'll come on to talk about challenges in a little bit, but some of the challenges are having that cohesion in a team, because you're remote. It's difficult to get everyone together. I think that's really important. Feeling attached to a group and attached to the mission that you're on, and how you achieve that. Again, I don't have any magic recipes. I think it's something that you have to work on every day. But I do feel as though I've had some success there. I think also key to have customers at the forefront of your mission. You may have some kind of drive or some kind of initiative, but if it's not serving the customer and if it's only serving the business, you want those initiatives to do both at the same time, customer and business. If everyone's winning, then I think that's a good thing. And again, I think we in my career we've had some success doing that.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And there's certainly a lot to unpack. And maybe we'll come to that at one point. You built support teams from the ground up, from what I know. What are the skills that you look for in support teams, and what are the traits that mark an excellent service and support engineers?
Okay, so I think some of the traits that I look for. I'm keen when I'm hiring anyone is to look at attitude and motivation. What is it that makes people tick? So I think it's a cliche, but skills can be trained, and I think what I look for is those who are looking to for customers to have the best experience. Those who want to do the right thing for their customers, those who want to advocate for the customers, but understand that they are working for a business and they are employed by a business, and to marry those. The other traits, I think, one of the skills of a field service engineer is that judgment in when to call for help. You don't want someone who faces any kind of problem and the first thing they do is call in for help. You want people to have a go and use, apply their skills. Equally, you don't want it to go too far the other way. Someone who's trying at a problem, and you've got a customer in the background who's getting frustrated, and then the engineer decides to call too late. So and it's a difficult balance. It's a difficult skill, because there's so much context around that. But someone who can judge when is the right time to call for help, I think is a really, really important skill. And again, we don't always get it right, but owning those issues, I think, is a really good sign of a good engineer. Someone who's a team player. As I mentioned, invariably, the teams that I've managed, at least, a lot of the time, people are out there in the field on their own, and being able to look for, to give support and to help your colleagues is really important. And it's a difficult thing because you're not side by side with the people that you work with in terms of your colleagues. So generating those relationships and working on sharing your experience, sharing your ideas, I think, again, is a tough one, and isn't necessarily a natural thing for a lot of field service engineers to do with their colleagues. Sure, it's relatively easy to do with the people immediately around you, customers, salespeople, whoever else is in your vicinity. But doing that with your team members who might be in a different country, I think, again, is a real skill.
Right. Like we said last time, it's really the manager having his team's backs, but also within the team, each other having their backs. And this is how they can support each other.
Exactly.
On your side, as a manager, what do you consider the most satisfying and the most challenging parts of managing a team, and how did you maintain a work-life balance? Because we know it's very demanding.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are the most satisfying parts? I think, for me as a manager, it's when the team delivers for the customers and for the business. So, you've got an upset customer, things that have gone wrong. You want your field engineers to turn up, make things right, fix things, and get to the bottom of the problems. So I think those are the satisfying things. Getting feedback back from your customers. Hey, your employee came along and we're having a tough time and they did a great job. As a manager, that's gold. To be able to say to your employees, hey, on this occasion you've done a great job, and being able to share that widely with the team as well, so everyone knows, hey, when you do something good, it's recognized, it's celebrated. I think some of the challenges, particularly early on, anyone who's transitioned from field service engineer to field service manager, particularly if you're in the same business, there's a real challenge to let go of the delivery part and take over the management part. I remember in my career, I was specialist on a particular product, and I was the go-to person in Europe. And when I'd moved into management, I had to resist the temptation to be the hero and go and solve things myself, and had to delegate that or manage that appropriately, and that is difficult, because you've gone from this role into another, and letting go of that, and letting people recognize that you've moved and you can't just do what you were doing, I think is one of the challenges. I think the other big challenge for managing remote teams is having that in-person, face-to-face time. Particularly if you're in different countries. The one thing I wish I had more of was time face-to-face with my employees. I enjoy that time. I get energy from spending time with my employees. So that's one of the challenges. It's difficult to spend a lot of time with people and still get the rest of your day job done.
That's always the top challenge for a manager, because they have their duties as a manager. They need to collaborate with sales and marketing and other pressing projects. At the same time, they want to spend time with their team. So it becomes really a puzzle to succeed at.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on your career, would you do anything differently?
I'm not a big believer in regrets from a kind of philosophical point of view. I wouldn't, and that's not to say that I didn't make my own share of mistakes, particularly earlier in my career. But I don't think I would do anything differently. At least nothing jumps out. Of course, there are things where I look back and go, okay, that was a learning experience, where things have gone wrong, or I've just not taken something into account. We try and make the best decisions on the information that's in front of us, and sometimes some more information comes along later, and you think, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't the best call, but at the time it seemed like the right thing to do. So no regrets, but every day is a school day.
Definitely. And we always learn the hard way. Nothing comes easy.
Exactly.
Switching back to the engineers, what advice would you give the field engineers who are early in their careers?
So it's going to sound a funny one, but I would always recommend reading. There's a wealth of knowledge out there in books, and as if you are in the field, I did a lot of travel by train and by plane, and the opportunities to read up, whether it's fiction, non-fiction, whatever it may be. But I would always recommend doing reading. If I was in the car, I'd have an audiobook on, and more recently that has been more management books. But equally, whether, as I say, if there's some good stories to listen to, I would always recommend a good book. On a more practical level, I would say support your colleagues, support your management. That's a theme I think that's run through our conversations, both in the previous time we've spoken and in today's talk. I think that support is really important, and that's how you build trust. That's how you build your career is by supporting your colleagues, by supporting other people, your customers, other business units, and that's how you generate you build on your integrity and develop your own personal brand. So I think that's really important early in your career.
Agreed. And it all revolves around curiosity. Read, ask questions, shadow the more senior engineers, learn from them so you can evolve in your career, in your knowledge, and become the engineer that you want to be. For those engineers who aspire to advance to management, what recommendations would you have for them?
So I think one thing that you may have to do, and it is to go after that. So look for the opportunities. Of course, you can go about your day job absolutely and do a great job in delivering. But in order to shift into management, I think you need to be prepared. You need to understand what it is that the managers do, because a lot of it will be hidden from you. So talk to your management, understand what their role really is, understand what the tough bits are, what the things are that are good, what are the rewards, and also seek out those opportunities. One thing I found has been useful. If a manager is going on holiday or is off sick, be the person that can fill in for them, be their deputy, and do as good a job as you can. But you need to get that exposure to understand what it is that you're going after in a leadership position. So I think definitely do your homework, but seek those opportunities and speak to your management. Say, hey, look, I am looking to lead the team. I am looking to develop my expert knowledge on a product so I can move up. So I think that's the advice I would give. And that's what I found worked for me. I was keen to move up. I had those conversations with my line management, say, hey, I really want to be doing something a little bit different and helping where I can. So that'd be my advice.
And I guess managers welcome the idea because that is very helpful for them when they are away. We talked last time about coaching and mentoring also. As a mentor and a coach, what advice would you give to someone to be a good mentee? You asked me that question last time, and I'm curious to see your take on it also.
So I think, as a coach, I think one thing I would ask someone who is a mentee, how can you be the best student? And they will come up with lots of answers to that. My advice is, number one, turn up prepared. So, don't just come expecting to absorb something that a coach or a mentor has got ready for you. Have an aim of what what you want out of that conversation. Have a list. Understand, have an agenda. What is it that you want to talk about? So do turn up prepared. If there's a document you wanted to go over, make sure you've read through it. Make sure you've had a go at it. Always have a go first before presenting something to someone. So turn up prepared. The other thing I would say is, a mentor-mentee relationship is it's a two-way process, and be prepared absolutely to challenge your mentor. I might be coaching someone who is earlier on in their career. If I look back at the start of my career, there were no smartphones when I started in the field. The technology has shifted and moved on, and what I think of as things that I found challenging in the field when I started. Yes, I've managed people, and I'd like to think I'm well informed, but my advice is based on a career that goes back 20 odd years, and I want to learn as well. I want to learn from the people who I'm teaching, and challenge is a really good way of doing that, and that way you can both explore my own thoughts, but also what's going through their head and what's going through a mentee's thought process, and that will help them get their hopefully get their thoughts in order and provide some challenge to them as well.
Sounds very good. Charlie, thank you very much for sharing your time and for sharing your experience with us. It's been a pleasure. To our subscribers, due to the success of these talks and also by popular demand, we will be posting regularly content at the beginning of the month. Every month, we are committing to that. Myself and Charlie, we will be the hosts of those talks. We have some topics to start with. As we said, every time we talk, there's a lot to unpack. So we're going to tap into these important topics and turn them into talks. But for our listeners, please don't hesitate to submit your suggestions for specific topics that you would like us to cover. And by the way, just as a reminder, you will be able to listen to these talks on Spotify and Apple Podcast. You don't have to dedicate time in front of the screen. You could be driving between two service calls and listen to the podcast. So with this, we'll close, and I will say see you in November on the next talk. Take care, everyone.